Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, it's time for the podcast. That's, kind of like just staring and looking at clouds in the sky, but instead it's audio in your ears, and it doesn't, not good at drawing analogies. It's time for Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. Before we get started, I just want to thank everybody who spreads the word about the podcast, whether it's like sharing it in your podcasting app as it's playing, or, writing about the show or telling one friend about the show. It's a huge, huge help, and I really, really appreciate all of you that are out there doing it. Thank you. And you know what an excellent way to support the show is? Let me ask you a question. Do you use Amazon.com? Well, did you know you could use the same Amazon, same prices and everything, if you just use our link, sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. And it'll support the show because it will get a small percentage of your purchase as a commission through the Amazon affiliate program. So you just go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon, just do your regular shopping. You'll be helping the show out. But the best way is sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. Mystery Bud, you got a song about this one?
Maybe none of the advertisers excite. Maybe you don't got the funds for Patreon right now. You told all your friends about the show. You've done everything right, But you can go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. Bookmark it so you can find it whenever you want, and use it whenever you shop at Amazon.
So that's it, sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon. Same Amazon, you always use same prices, but it helps the show out. Housekeeping, we're on the web, www.sleepwithmepodcast.com. Older episodes are there. You can comment on our show notes. You can get me at Twitter, at Dear Scooter, on Facebook, at Sleep With Me Podcast. I want to thank Chris Posterson, who does our theme music from Sounds Like an Earful Studios, Carl W., who edited this episode, Jonathan Mann from jonathanmann.net, who's on our lullabies, Scotty and Jennifer on our artwork, and the listeners have a Facebook group over at sleepwithmepodcast.com/nods, NODS, Lauren Lida, Summer and Sarah, Julie and Jennifer over there. There's also a subreddit. I don't know if we have a moderator over there, Redditator, but that's at sleepwithmepodcast.com/Reddit. And I think that's it. Let's get on with the show. Hey, you want like tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that's here to put you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to do is create a safe place where you can set aside whatever is keeping you up, whether it's thinking, feeling, physical sensations, emotional turbulence, outside noises, changes, whatever it is. I'm going to try to take your mind off of that. So the safe place is that, whatever, you could just leave it wherever, throw it wherever you want. A safe place, just throw it where you want it. It's imaginary anyway. I guess like you could hang, say drop. Would you want to drop your burdens or would you want to hang your burdens? Toss your burdens. Burden me. I'm a beast of burden, beast of boring burden. So you could throw it on me. Roll your burdens. Did I say toss? Eject. We'll have a special eject thing. Trebuchet. You could trebuchet your burdens into the story swamp. You could also catapult them, launch them. We'll have a launcher. Whatever it is, I'm going to try to take your mind off of what's keeping you up. And what I'm going to do is send my voice across the deep, dark night here. I'm going to use lulling, soothing tones. Some say creaky, dulcet tones. Some say extremely annoying tones. But these are nice enough, right? Because you don't really have to listen to me too closely. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to distract you, take your mind off what's keeping you awake, but I'm going to go on some, bends and turns. I'm going to go slow, pause, say, what is it? What was I going to say next? No idea. So what am I going to say now? I'm not sure yet. The structure of this episode tonight, it's a Metastasnooze episode. So what I'm going to do is, I'll do this intro for a while. Then what I do every week is I watch Metastasnooze, which is the Colombian remake of Breaking Bad. I watch that once. It's in Spanish. I don't have the subtitles. I don't speak Spanish, but I take a ton of notes. Then I watch the corresponding episode of Breaking Bad. I take a ton of notes. Then I rewatch the Colombian version with Spanish subtitles. I write down some Spanish words. So the first segment, I'll make up a little story based on the Spanish words I tried to learn. If you're a stickler for pronunciation in English or Spanish, you'd say, geez, what's wrong with this guy? And they say, well, I'm just being myself. So I told, some of it's in progress of just being myself. Believe me, I got like 500 or 600 people in my brain that say that to me. What's wrong with you? I say, what do you mean? Like, I was just going to go to bed. Then they say, well, yeah, that's my question, so don't worry about those kind of questions. I can take them. And if you do have that feeling like, what's wrong with this guy? Don't worry about it. Just being myself, just doing the best job I can. This is what I'm good at, it turns out. So I'm going to make a Spanish story based on the Spanish words I learned. Then I'll talk about the Metastasnooze episode. Then I'll talk about a sanitized version of Breaking Bad. It'd be about an hour and 15 minutes here. You don't need to, you can just kick back and kind of let me bounce off your old eardrums. You don't really need to pay attention, or if I need you to remember something I asked you at the beginning of the show, that way you say, okay, you don't need to remember, you're off the hook now. And but let's say you can't sleep, or let's say you're having a tough time. I'll be here the whole time. So I'll be here till the end, giving it my all. So some people do listen to the end because they're really tough insomnia. Or, it's just that one night when you can't fall asleep or you can't figure it out. But that's why I do the show, because I've been there every Sunday night before grammar school. I don't think I stood a chance to, I would fall asleep, once it became, I think they call that pseudo insomnia, where you're like, was I up the whole night or did I pass out at some point? But, most of the time, Sunday nights, I couldn't sleep. So I listened to this radio show called Dr. Demento and Weird Al. They play songs and jokes and stuff like that. And you just listening to it because I felt like it was 9 o'clock at night. I wasn't supposed to be doing anything except sleeping. So it kind of felt a little bit whatever. I wasn't supposed to be doing it, and it was funny, and it distracted me. And I didn't really fall asleep, but it gave me something else to think about. And that's what I hope I can do for you in some way. And we use the term boyfriend around here because it's I guess this podcast in some sense really is a digital service is what I'm going for. It's just like I'm going to be there, sitting at the foot of your bed or in a chair on the other side of the room. You could picture me however you want. I could be dressed like what's his name? Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens. I could be Dapper in one of those suits and stuff like that. I don't know, I don't know if I could put, digitally I can pull that off, no problem. Actually, I don't think I can, but, I'll be there. The other day I had to do a interview, right? And I know maybe the person that I did the interview with is listening, but it was with some software. And I was trying to figure out how the software, and I was supposed to be on the call at a certain time, and I wanted to be on time. But I'll be honest with you, I just I don't like wearing a shirt when I'm at my house. So in general, I don't like wearing a shirt. And so I called this gentleman up, and because I figured it would be like a setting screen or login screen. And boom, pops up on my laptop camera there. This is the guy, great guy. I don't want to say his name and there I am, no shirt on. And I said, what is this? I said, oh boy. And I tried to play it off, but there was no playing it off. I said, oh, excuse me. I said, it probably won't be, but you could picture me in a Mark Twain suit, because that's a good thing about digital. Like I got a shirt on, and actually I have a shirt on when I'm recording. Just cause I don't know why I do that. Cause it gets a little cold in this back of this tiny closet that I record in, sometimes. But, so yeah, it's a digital service in some sense. Like I'm there telling you a story, but you're not obligated. That's the thing. If someone else came and told you a story, either you'd feel like, well, are they going to be looking at me, or are they just going to leave when they're done with the story? But I don't want them to leave till I'm asleep. I also don't want them to see, that all my clothes are on the couch, or what if they don't pick up it, but for me, there's no obligation. I'm not really there. And, a lot of times if you have somebody, like, let's say you're in the newer part of a relationship and not the newest part, but you're still in that phase, and they say that, well, you tell me a story tonight, then you feel obligated. I'll tell you a story tomorrow. For me, you don't got to. If I need you to do something, I ask you at the top of the show, and you can either do it or not. But now you don't know me enough, and you say, well, I don't got to tell Scoots a story. I don't got to say goodnight to Scoots, any of that stuff. And you're also under no pressure to fall asleep. I think that's one of the things that some people like. I'll be here the whole time, and I'll be doing my best the whole time to be somewhat entertaining or mildly amusing. You should mild. Yeah, mild is the term. That's the hitting the nail on the head. Limited vocabulary. I've had a few words. I know a few. But that's it. Like, if you're new here, like sometimes these intros are a little bit silly. This one's pretty straightforward. I don't know. I get another distracting thing. For some reason, I'm picturing like, I don't know. Sometimes I get distracted in the podcast. It's not good for the podcast. I'm like picturing going for a walk somewhere, and my mind won't shut up about it. I say, listen, I'm trying to do, and my brain's like, was that on the beach somewhere? Were we going to get something to eat? And I'm like, yo, I'm trying to do a podcast intro. I don't know why you keep showing me these pictures. Would you think that was in Northern California or Southern California? And I say, do you know I'm in the middle of a podcast? This is what's been happening for the last 4 minutes. You know I'm in the middle of a podcast intro? And I said, who are we with when we were there? Can you picture that? And I say, I'm in the middle of a podcast. Can you excuse me? And that kind of happens to me at bedtime, too. You say, what are you talking about, restaurant? I'm trying to go to bed. And they say, oh, no, I was talking about the restaurant and they say, oh, great, another embarrassing, shameful moment. So anyway, I try to intervene on your behalf. Digital service. You could call it that, your boyfriend. I come by, and I'll ramble here. I'll ramble for, till ideally you're off in dreamland. And you could set the sleep timer for 45 minutes or an hour when you start these. If you're new here, it's a podcast a little bit different, but I hope it works it doesn't work for everybody. I get on some people's nerves. But give it a few tries. If you're skeptical, totally sensible. It's like, wait, this grown person's going to tell me a bedtime story. And I say, in a way, I will. But I'm glad you're here. I appreciate your time. I really hope I really yearn to help you fall asleep, all right? Before we go on with the episode, I just want to remind everybody, if you use our Amazon link, sleepwithmepodcast.com/Amazon, it's a huge way to help out the show. That link should work in the U.S., Canada, and the U.K., thank you so much. This is episode 54. And this is the tale I heard actually in Cargue. Take care, pendiente of the pending Hizo al bus. He made it to the bus. And, this is a tale somebody tried to teach me to to disarm people. Como lo otro, as the other person, como usted diga, as you say, que más? What else you got to say? I don't know if I'm making any sense. Like in Proviado, someone took me aside and said, "You're weird." And I said, "Escapo safe way. I escape it was, if I could. But what happens is estaba pensado. I'm always thinking." And when I'm thinking, it's like imputan. I'm imputed, implicated by my brain. And then I retiran, I withdraw deeper within, and it makes it's my kind of life is like a cell de ponga, say, like I keep within a cell of myself. Paletta, the palette of the world for me is it going to be bad or worse? But I'm trying to change. That's why I'm here. For you were going to offer Terra Las Compro. You were going to offer to buy my troubles, I thought. And they said, "Oh yeah, just step onto this escalator. This goes to the misma cartel, the same cartel that buys your troubles. And you'll be able to relajarse el resto a sus días. You'll be able to relax the rest of your days." And they said, "Picture a check-in stand with like a rooster. This is a rooster. It goes up to the reception desk, and there's a sign at the reception desk with cards. It says, Pita Algo, ask something." And the rooster has its sospechas, its suspicions. Además mejor haber, see, it's also been better. Why isn't there a receptionist working at the reception desk? The rooster asks itself. TNA, has something happened? But then the rooster says, "I got an idea. Escrita," and it's written by the rooster. "Get a receptionist," and it puts it in the box. And it's a Sugiero box, I would suggest box. And, then the rooster doesn't have a hand, it has wings, cabos sueltos. So it rubs its wings together like its hands, like tying up loose ends. And then boom, a receptionist is there. And I don't mean anything. I mean Delante Salida Refiero. I mean like a out front, output, ready to go receptionist. And this receptionist, his name's Ed. And cierto iba hacer nada. Like some would do anything to be, like to have a receptionist like Ed. Because Ed is the receptionist amaniaba that's been imagined by many, place that needs reception help. But maybe Ed's gone wrong because he says lugar habiente, like maldita. Like, what the heck is this place? Where am I living? And here's the rooster who say, pero exporta. This is where they export people's troubles. You're the, I guess in some sense, the loboco abierta, the open mouth. And then Ed says, enredarme, like I've been entangled in a business of buying troubles as a receptionist. Apuntado conmigo, are you pointing at me? No, I'm a rooster. I don't point at anybody. Actually, my wings are totally bajo me in control, totally under my control. And then it says, okay, wait, claro oferisque detalles. Clearly, you got to offer me some details here. And the rooster says, I don't know, this was a story about being shy. And then I think the person that was telling the story is learning a story. tenemos un trato. They have a deal, and we have a deal as the characters in the story to go on a journey about exporting troubles. And it said, okay, let me check. I see talieres. I see we have a list of workshops here. Was the story, was the person mismas celdas? Were they talking about being in the same cell of themselves? And the rooster said, coo, 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 choo. And then it said, okay, like I just heard a moteen, like it sounded like there was a riot within the trouble exporting unit. So let's go look around this office. Certero Commando, like see if we can't ascertain who's in command here. And then they went into this giant warehouse where there was tons of Trupa Concretamos, specific troops working on stuff. And it said, propuesta. We have a proposal here. Hello. And then this person was working on the box. They said, say Dana Manera. It's the Dana way. And they said, Ed's, Ed was a big X. Ed said the Dana Scully way. And then someone said, La Plata esta lista. Silver's on the list. And Ed looked at the rooster. And he said, oiga, amiga, serias. And he said, listen to me, friend. This is serious. Perder el tiempo, dude. I doubt we could waste any more time here because I don't even know what's going on. And the rooster said, Solito la misma hora. What if we left here at the same time? And Ed said, as a, superior receptionist, planeaba, I know that the guy that was telling the story planned that, apagar, we would turn off, his problems as a, so he would have a story to tell people. And then Rooster looked at Ed and said, Genio ben mi amor, genius, my love. And Ed said, whoa, this is workplace boundaries. Tetero como va, bottle up that love as it goes, you could just say, I like that idea, Traguito, nip it, nip that in the bud. Son los peores, because, not having clear boundaries at work, that's the worst. It's not salud, not good for your health. And the rooster shook its head up and down and said, okay, get it, subiendo y llevando. So what are we leading up to? What's this story? And it said, well, you need a story that's sabroso devaborban. So tasty, they'll devour it. And then Ed said, acampar, to camp. And they said, what? The rooster said, what camp? And then some of the workers said, mostramos quedo más lindo. We stay cute, show more. And then the rooster said, is this a dream? And Ed said, like a dream, but just like not as good. Edad te veo mejor. Age to see you better. The rooster said, I thought it was, your eyes to see you better. And Ed said, mejorando no sé, the story is not improving. But he said, gather around, warehouse workers. Ed said, los niños sus papas, children are built like their parents. This is a place full of children. And we have a problem. There's a guy that needs our story. And he needs it, pero siento un cosa, but he doesn't feel nada, he doesn't feel a thing. And really, this story is, the secret of it is manera rescatar Sierra. It's a way to rescue his closes so he doesn't feel nervous after he closes. So does anybody have anything paradoxical to add to the story? Any of you children? And one of the little warehouse children said, traerlos lavado contarlos. Washing, bringing them count. That is very paradoxical. Rooster, what do you think? And the rooster said, anyone else? And another child said, billete pesa calculo. The ticket weighs calculations. And then it said, Rende no tango, Rooster, you got one you prefer? And Montan Quanto, as a group, these kids are brilliant. Washing, bringing them count, the ticket weighs calculation. And the Rooster said, it reminded me of the famous Rooster story, short one, but avisar con razón tampoco. It was a story of the rooster nor rightly warned. It was my cousin, Carla the rooster. She was andando. She was walking and saying to the day, si bueno, what a day. Un polo tranquilo. I'm going to have a cold, cool soda soon. And she drank all these sodas, and then suddenly she found herself in a situation tuve que ir, where she had to go. As she said to herself, tuve que ir, I have to go. But she was in a strange village, and she searched, extrano repente veo. Suddenly she could, she couldn't see anywhere where she could go, and she knocked on this door. And a strange old woman opened the door, and Carlos said, can I use your restroom? And the woman said, entiende clarissimo. Do you understand the bargain? If I let you use my restroom. And she said, no, but I got to go anyway, so just let me go. So then Carla went to the restroom. And as she came out, the old woman said, iba manejando. And Carla said, what? She goes, well, I was driving. And Carla said, well, good, great. Thanks for letting me use your restroom. I couldn't just go outside. I'm a chicken or a rooster in a strange town. And then it was like the old woman, aparaga pues si bateria. It was if her battery shut down. And Carla said, oh, no, this must be the deal we made that I agreed to. I didn't understand the bargain, even though I agreed to it. And I don't want to deal with, their god, these roosters' god was called the Medidor, the measurer. And she didn't want to be marked. So she said to the old woman, así somos. We are like that too. Sometimes we get tired. Are you just tired or your batteries run down? And the woman said, no tanto como usted, not as much as you. And she said, this doesn't make any sense, Carla. And Carla said, can you tell me more? And she said, inercia lo creo. I think it's inertia. And then she said, okay, I learned about that in class. If we take you to the top of a hill, salida vale sabe estuvo. It is known that that'll be output, like your inertia. So Carla found like a little car with four wheels, and she ran this woman to the top of the hill. Halfway, then she went back and used the bathroom again because she had so many sodas. Then she got her to the top of the hill. She said, when I let you go, estoy fuera, I'm out, And the old woman said, okay, but first, arteries en el pelo. I need some hair earrings. And she said, well, any type of hair, I don't know what hair earrings are. I'm a rooster named Carla, but what kind of hair earrings are you looking for? And she said, color Borgonia Caben, a burgundy fit. And she said, well, I have burgundy. Oh, yeah, of course I could give you because Carla happened to have some burgundy feathers. And feathers, you have like tips. So she said, oh, yeah, look at these hair earrings. They'll be perfect for when you fly down the hill. And so Lopone, she put the feathers in the woman's earring holes. And then the Chaba, she threw herself down the hill. So she was tight and fast. But as she picked up speed, bloqueate door, there was something blocking her path at the bottom of the hill. And then Carlos said, fly, fly, fly. And Nublando, there was the woman, the old woman took off because of the giant burgundy hair earrings she had, which were really feathers. And Nublando, she was clouding through the sky, flying. And then Postre began raining desserts, which was strange. And then it got even weirder. There was like a cochino. The old woman she jumped off her car and she was riding a pig through the sky, throwing desserts down. And this is the thing of the story is they never had desserts. So everyone celebrated. And then this guy, the shy guy said, well, what the heck would happen? I thought this was about and they said, no, we're using you. Cierto iba hacer nada. Some will do anything. Some of these characters in these stories will do anything to get desserts for their village. So you helped us. Thank you. And that was the end of that. Didn't help me, but I guess it helped them. Get dessert rain. The end. All right, so this episode opens with a fly in Walt's head, 54. A black solo cup, which is, rare for me. I don't see many black solo cups. There's a hot beverage that Walt savors. And then the fly savors something. I think the fly's cleaning its hands. And Walt looks or he's thinking, and then someone says, Hefe, it's Petzo. What does this say? Saro is Hugh. Saro, yeah. Something Walt. I'm not sure. Determined or second thoughts. And because Walt's looking like he'll think 5. I don't know what that is. C, oh no. C, no. Walt thinks it all. Over drinks. Oh, thinks it all over his drinks. Oh, he thinks it over. He's drinking regular man's coffee, as opposed to the Baedeker brew. He's drinking out of a regular old Mr. Coffee. And then Petto says something like, "Yeah, I did good, huh?" Or question mark. And then Walt says, "See now." And then they say, "Well, what about all of Mario's collectibles? Let's take care of those." But then Jose rolls up, and they're trying to hoard his collectibles. They hide. It's awkward between Petto and Jose. Jose also has a new shirt on. But his old long black sweater, it's like a sweater robe. I don't know what you'd call it, but that's what I just called it, as a sweater robe. I mean, he's like an unbelievably handsome dude, but I don't think many other people could pull it off unless you're like astrophysicists and Jose probably. Let's see. Sweater, Mario is out. They say, yeah, he's gone. We don't have his collectibles. But Jose's got questions. What about those G.I. Joes still in the package? And Walt says, don't worry about it. Hit the road. And then as Jose drives away, Walt's scowling. And then the episode opens. The name of the episode is WB. And I'm not talking about that network that compete, with the frog, where I think that's the network, the Animaniac network. And then Walt's on the toilet. I said, oh boy, this is going to be a good episode. I can't wait already. And Walt's reading his William Blake book, or we see it. It's next to the toilet off to the side. And then there's a prison meeting, deal making with one of Gus's guys, or Mario's guys, with a lawyer. And they're trying to make a deal based on how much does he know. And Henry's all up in his grill. He's like, no deal, man, unless you spill all the beans. And then we see Lydia. She's in a nice restaurant, like some sort of jazz or big band music's playing. And she has all her tea stuff. She's already set up. She's got it all set up. Something... Oh, the restaurant's at the top of a building. It's one of those nice restaurants at the top of a building with a view. As opposed to one's at the top of a building with no view. This has windows. And Walt says, hey, I want that list. And Lydia says, the list with that my kiss is on. And he said, I always thought it was on your lips. When Scooter said he thought the song was Kiss on Your Lips, not Kiss on Your List. But he said, no, I'm here for a list, not a kiss on the lips or on a list. And he said, you're sure it's Kiss on my list? And she said, I'm sure. And then Brianni, what does that mean? Lydia's brain. Oh, she says, the list is on my brain, not on my lips. And she said, I appreciate if you keep your eyes on my brain, too. And she said, I'm not giving it up. There's 10 people on the list. Walt's like all trying to talk her out of it. She's like, this is a negotiation, my friend. And Walt refuses to negotiate, but then she has an idea that seems to win him over. And then Lydia's telling him there's nothing to worry about, Walt. And they talk a lot more, and she seems to have something that Walt needs or something that worries Walt. They couldn't figure that out. But they make a deal for the list, not for the kiss. And Lydia writes very fast. She's a fast writer. Holy cow, she writes fast. And legible, though. And they shake hands. Tenemos un trato. And Lydia steals some, I put down Activa, but I don't think that's what it's called, like Sucriva or something, whatever they call that. I know it's got a name. Steva, I think that's what it is. Stevia, maybe. And then Walt did or was ready to Heisenberger. We see under his hat he has a Heisenberger. He said, this is my new invention. I'm going to start a Heisenberg burger place. Like Los Pollos Hermanos, it's going to be called Heisenberger. But then he hides the secret recipe to his Heisenberger. He hides it at home, the recipe, in this hiding spot, but he forgets to reset his clock because he had unplugged the plug. That's where he hides the Heisenberger recipe. And then a call comes in, and Walt says, yeah, let's do it, dude. And he goes to a bar with Petto and some tough guys. And Walt sees a painting. And it's the same painting he stared at the hospital once. I'd say it's like a painting, like kind of like the Old Father in the Sea is what I'd title it at this moment. And Walt's, Petto's obsessively shining his boots. I think we got to work something about, he might keep an eye on him because he's a stress case. He's shining boots obsessively. And the dudes are making some kind of plan. And then they say something to Walt like, perfect or something. And Walt stands and he's like looking at the picture. He gets up. He's like, I need to look at this picture closer. But, it's a man in a boat with the kids and the wife on the beach. And he's like, I'd love to interpret for you gentlemen about this picture. And they're like, dude, we're here to talk about a plan. And Walt tells him, I'm paying you not to worry. I'm paying you to listen, I think, or something. Then Walt's at home. He's looking at his watch. It's tick, tick, ticking and click, click, clicking. And Walt paces through the house. There's music going. Henry's giving out the Fun Run Awards for these kids. And then Gomez gives him the news that all the witnesses have decided to be quiet. There's a slow-mo of Henry's reaction. Walt gets the news, and he says, perfecto. Then Walt's watching the news with Maria and the baby. I noticed there's 3 vases by the TV. I didn't know whose house it was until a second later when I put parentheses at Maria's house. Closed parentheses. Then she shuts off the news. She's nervous. She takes the baby. She says, Henry's coming. He comes in. He's totally defeated. He needs a drink. He gulps it down. He says, salute. Or Walt says salute after Henry had gulps down his first drink. Henry leans back. He sighs. He stretches. Then he tells Walt a sad tale of defeat. I think, I don't speak Spanish. by the non-fair team. And then Walt says, let me make one more point in Kanta. Something I love, I think. Then Walt's cooking, cooking the blue, and he cooks alone. I had to put this joke in there because he prefers to cook meth by himself. Walt cooks alone. Then we see Peto and him banding up money. Then this new song starts, and there's lots of product. You see Peto's the main man. We see Lydia putting meth in oil. Yeah, that's bound for the Czech Republic. Walt watches. Peto cook. Cielo does the books and counts cash and cola. Walt rolls in with cola and cash. Inchino, something, Indicola, I think. And the money keeps coming and the cola keeps coming and coming. And we see lots of business. It's a montage. Walt's got the Heisenberg look and he meets with Lydia. We see Saul getting paid. Peto watching. And then at some point, this was a good one. I didn't write down the time. But Peto's watching the liquid meth stream out of this thing, and he decides to smell it. He just tastes this. I want to see what this smells like, and he smells it. Then Walt and Lydia have lunch and exchange stuff. Cielo does the books. Peto cracks up some products, some blue. We see stuff in the lab. We see money. Lydia labeling barrels. Cielo doing the books. We see highlighters. We see coffee. We see Heisenberg take off his hat and sit with his owls. And then it's 8 months later. There's a couple shots of him sitting down. And then it's 8 months later. His daughter's a little older, 8 months older, I guess. And she's drawing. Junior's there. He gets a call from his peeps. And they're all still live among us. I don't know what that says. Junior gets a call. They all still live among us. At Maria's, maybe? And she has questions for Cielo. Oh, yeah, they all still live at Maria's, the kids. And they have a long talk, and then Walt's in the backyard throwing matches into the pond. I say, okay, that's a warning sign. And Cielo comes out, and she says, we need to talk. They go to the storage place where there's a pallet of money in there. And she's like, this is too much to hide and too much to spend, Walt. And Cielo talks to him about it. She says, W in the T in the F should we do about this friggin' money? And she goes, why don't you stop? Isn't enough? Police, how much more? ... That's what I put because it goes into another page. And it says, when they get, Walt looks like a confused android at this point. He's just got that confused android look on his face. And then the Walt gets a scan and he washes his hands. He's in the restroom. Sees the paper towel dispenser's damaged. You think that's a callback to like season 1. Then Jose's like falling asleep smoking on the couch. I said, Jose, what the heck? What are you thinking, man? That's the worst thing ever. And there's a knock at the door. Jose's feeling a little paranoid. What the heck does this say? MC Escher T. They thought it said Mick Schuler T. Like, I was like, Mr. Schuler, is it an MC? But he has an MC Escher, his MC Escher T shirt on. If I'd just put shirt in there, I might have had a better chance. And Walt's there. He's like, what up, Holmes? And Jose says, totes busy, bro. And he says, what up? And then Walt says, dude, I'm totally cool, but how about I come in? And Jose says, yeah, sure, just for a minute. Don't mind my bong here. It's like tobacco use only, just like they say at the store. And Walt's like, oh, totally tobacco use only. And yeah, Jose says, it's so much better. And then he asks Walt, Walt says, hey, how about if I sit down and talk? And then they take a trip down memory road. And they share this memory, nostalgia moment for the good old days of season 1 in the bus. And when Jose made videos, and he said, if we were just, if we just timed it a little bit better with YouTube, we could have our lives would have been so much different. And then they have that moment that all carry where they say, oh, that was so cool. And it gets awkward. And Walt's like, yeah, I got to roll out. But, there's just something outside your front door. He goes, I hear Santa Claus is rolling around right now. Walt gets out. Jose opens it slowly, very slowly. It's full of money. He breathes heavy, but you can't tell if he's relieved or burdened by the look on his face. Then we have Cielo doing dishes. She's wearing gloves. Walt shuts off the water, and he says it's done. And there's a zoom on Cielo's face. And then we have a backyard family daytime barbecue. Like straight out of the, everybody's happy. Junior's pushing his sister on a tricycle. I think Walt has a new phone that he's showing off. Henry's there. Everyone's like, oh, this is the best. Henry's back wearing his red and blue geometric shirt that I like. I think Cielo was talking about a new haircut, and then they're like, oh, we forgot to put sunscreen on the baby. And then Henry's like, I got to go use the restroom. I got a bathroom emergency. But it wasn't really emergency because he goes in the bathroom. He looks in the mirror. He sits down. He looks through the magazines. He looked at Famed magazine. He's like, no. Then he looks at Blow magazine. He's like, no, neither one of those is dirty either. They were fashion mags. And then he's like, oh, snap, there's some William Blake in here. He goes, I've been waiting to, he goes, oh boy, get my freaking poetry on. And he reads it and then he sees the inscription of Walt, and this voiceover comes from, like when Walt was like, oh, what does WB stand for? And they said, well, I thought it stood for Warner Brothers Network. And then Walt's like, is that what the CW was? And they said, no, they were competing, I think. And then the shock hits Henry, and then there's more flashbacks. Henry was wearing the same shirt in the flashback, which that was great. So that shirt has gotten, but this was in telenovela, remember? So this came out every night. And then, Walt's joking in the flashback, and then we go back to Henry as the shock sinks in and the episode ends. This episode's gliding overall. And it starts out with the fly landing and rubbing its hands. It's just out of focus. Or something's out of focus. The fly's in focus. Then we realize it's Walt out of focus. He comes into focus, and it's what he's looking at is a flies on his desk lamp. And it's flying around, and Walt's watching it. I don't know what this means. Cab work or lab work? And Todd looks tired, and he's looking for Mr. White. Maybe Todd came back in a cab. I don't know what that says. And then Mr. White, he goes in, and Mr. White's sitting there in his office quietly. And he goes, all right, Mr. White, I dealt with the car. And he goes, should we deal with this other thing now? And they say, Walt says, sure, but I don't want to talk about it. It's interesting because there was like a fly poster on the wall, because they were like, it's whatever, the extermination company. Then Jesse rolls in. He's like, yo, Walt, I got to talk to you in private. And Walt's almost honest with him. He really plays fast and loose with the truth with Jesse, because Jesse's like, I need to talk to Mike. And Walt's like, he just totally tries to be honest with him. Barely honest. And Jesse's like, well, what are we going to do? And Walt says, there is no we. I'll handle it. And then Jesse goes, the door closes, and the episode opens. Then Walt's in the shower. He's rubbing his shoulders, putting water on his face. And then we see Dennis from the laundry. He's trying to make a deal with Hank, him and his lawyer, and Hank's lawyer. And Hank's like, oh, no, this is a buyer's market. You know, I got plenty of other people to try to make deals with if you can't make a good deal. You know, I want Armentrout and all the money. Then we have Lydia and Heisenwald rolls in. That's what I put. Looked like he had new, bigger sunglasses on, but he takes them off. Lydia's like, you better order something. Walt's like, she's like, it play better. Walt's like, it's going to play fine. I'm not thirsty. And we have this nice back and forth with Walt and Lydia, where Lydia kind of gets Walt better than Walt. Actually, compared to like Mike or Jesse, she kind of, you know, because they go back and forth about the list, and then what is Lydia's value? And Walt's like, well, I'm just trying to fix everything, you know. And Lydia's like, well, I don't trust you, you know, unless I have some leverage. And she already figures out faster than Jesse. I think that's what I meant, faster than Jesse. She's like, you know, clearly, and Jesse will figure this out later. She's like, I know what you're up to. And she's like, if we go to the Czech Republic, we can make a lot more bank. You know, your stuff will blow their hair back. And Walt's like, that's not a good idea, you know, when it's international. And she's like, I'm Madrigal International. She goes, I move things from point A to point B all over the globe. All of it right at my fingertips, a laptop click away. And she's like, I got it worked out. It's slam dunk. And Walt's like, well, why didn't Gus do this? She goes, we were about to, but, you know, he's not in business anymore. And she goes, that'll be far away from you. She goes, 25 pounds a week, that'll be $2 million. And then she keeps talking. Walt says, okay. And then Lydia says, well, anyway. And then Walt says, Lydia, learn to take yes for an answer. Oh, when she said, this is what I do, she was a laptop click away. I liked that. She was whispering almost. And then she writes down the list. Walt's watching her. He's quiet. She holds out her hand. They shake on it, but it was a sideways handshake, like not perpendicular, you know, like their hands were turned at instead of up and down. They were, I don't know what that means. Yeah, perpendicular, maybe. And then Walt Heisenberg's, and he's out with Caddy. What is that? He takes his Heisenberger recipe with him, goes and puts the recipe for his new Heisenberger business in the socket. Walt makes a call. You know, there was a shot where he looked like he was dressed all in purple, like purple cords in a purple shirt. And then they say, time to meet your uncle. And they're having a meeting, Todd's uncle and this other guy, while Walt stares at this painting. And they're talking and they're planning, and Walt's like staring at the painting. And that's 15:30, because I liked it, because they say, yeah, well, this is doable, you know. And Walt says, he's still not listening. He goes, where do you think these paintings come from? He goes, I've seen this one before. You think they're in a giant warehouse someplace? And the guy snaps his fingers in Walt's face. He says, hey, this can be done, but just not the way you wanted to do it. And then there's this long exchanged look between not only Walt, but like the other guys. And Walt's like, I think he's like the alpha. His like legs are crossed. He's calm. And he says, it can be done exactly how I want it. The only question is, are you the man to do it? Figure it out. That's what I'm paying you for. And at some point, Todd nods like, if, and the guy kind of laughs. Then Walt's at home, just in case you were, you know, playing the stay-at-home game or whatever. The Afghan they have is still on the couch. Walt's in a different outfit, so I guess it's a different day. He's in a yellow checked shirt. A stopwatch starts. Pick Yourself Up, the Nat King Cole song plays. Walt waits and the clock tips. You see Walt's reflection as he waits in the window, I think, or sliding door. And then time ends. We see Hank with his softball team. Steve gives Hank some bad news. Walt's phone rings with good news. Then Walt's with the baby. Marie's in full purple outfit. Hank comes home. Marie is very nervous because Hank's stressed. Hank takes his tie off as he's walking down the hall. He pours some drinks for him and Walt. He sits in a chair. He leans back. He breathes. And this is a nice scene here because he sits there with his mouth open for a little while, with a silent stare. It's just quiet. And then he says, I've been thinking about this summer job I used to have in college. I'd mark trees in the woods with spray paint. And later people would come in and take the trees, cut the trees I tagged down. He goes, that's it. You go in, you mark for locations, for skid trails and landings, and then you choose the specific trees within a grid. He goes, every day I'd go back in, hike up there, and pick up where I left off. Walt's like, oh, sounds great. And Hank's like, no, it wasn't great. Mosquitoes, sunburn. He goes, but I just wanted a few bucks to buy beer. And he goes, I've been thinking about that job more and more lately. Maybe I should have enjoyed it more. He goes, because tagging trees is a lot better than chasing, jerks. And it's like this really, a heavy moment. And then Walt, Mr. Cognitive Dissonance, he says, you know what? I used to love going camping. Also had some notes. The table they were at had a strange glass sculpture of green and purple swirls, glass swirls. And Walt had another different outfit on, a green shirt. And then we see Walt lean down, and then he sits back up again. He's in his cooking gear. And then the song Crystal Blue Persuasion starts, a nice one by Tommy Jones or something in the Shondells. And there's a meth and money montage. Walt, Todd, Skylar, Lydia, Salt saluting and drinking to music, meth. Planes, money, Lydia, Walt in the shower, I think, Skylar, coffee, Walt, Walt getting tired times 1, Walt getting tired times 2, more meth, Skylar, something. Then we see a shot of Albuquerque with yellow and green tents moving across the city. Purple shag cart, the baby walking, Skylar laughing, Junior's being a good big brother, Marie's watching, and then Lewis, of course, just ruins it, calls Junior. And Junior's like, I got to go deal with Lewis, I'm out. There's a painting in the background, in the far background of their house of 3 Western, something from a Western, not from a movie, but maybe influenced by it. I couldn't tell if it was Outlaws or Lawmen from a spaghetti Western style movie. And then Marie's happy that Skylar's happy. But then Marie's trying to be pat. She's like, hey, 3 months is a while to watch your kids, no offense. But, and Skylar's like, what do you mean? She goes, well, we love your kids, but, maybe they should come home. You're happy. Therapy, and Skylar's face, just great acting as Marie slowly gets to her point, which basically comes down to the best way to repair the family is to repair the family or something. And then Skylar goes home. It's quiet. So there's a blue water light coming from the outside from the pool. And Walt's just sitting there staring at the pool. And Skylar comes out. She's like, let's take a drive. And they go to the storage. In the storage, we see a dehumidifier and bug spray and a scale. This is at 34 minutes in the show. And she says, well, I had to rent this because I didn't know what to do with the money. It's too much. Can't even figure out how to figure out how much is here because I can't weigh it because there's so many different denominations. So she's like, I just stack it up and make sure there's no silverfish. More money we could spend in 10 lifetimes. Can't launder it now with 100 car washes. And she goes, I just want, things to get back to normal. And well, she just says, how much is enough? How big does this pile have to be? And then we see Walt, he's getting a little checkup and he's got a goatee. He washes his hands, the dryer's busted, or the paper towel holder's busted. The paper towel holder's busted. Then Jesse's day sleeping while smoking, knock, knock. Jesse had this crazy graphic t-shirt on, brand new. It had like a gold, I think it was like a character wearing a gold chain on it. It was wild. It was great. And Jesse looks terrible. And Walt's like, hey, sorry, am I disturbing you? Jesse's like, he's like, I tried calling. Jesse's like, I got no phones. I'm off the grid. And Walt's like, well, I was just dropping by. I thought I'd say hi. He's like, okay. He goes, I really don't have anything to offer you. And Walt's like, you didn't move. And Jesse's like, yeah, I didn't have to. I heard everything was taken care of. And Walt's like, yeah. And Jesse's like, I'm not going back into business with you, Walt. He's like, I know. And he goes, well, why are you here? Walt goes, oh, it's a funny thing. I saw one of those Bounder RVs and I thought of you the other day. And they're like talking about, oh, yeah, early 80s, man. Probably better than our heap of junk. Nicer paint job. No holes. Like, oh, that was the worst, but it was also the best. And Jessica, yeah, I used to pray it wouldn't stop running. And they're like, oh, those weird. And they thought, they just run down things, the good old days. And they're like, well, why didn't we change it? We had the worst RV. And they say, oh, inertia. That's why, inertia. And they're like, okay, let's get out of here. Yeah, sorry, yeah, let's go. And you get Jesse like, yeah, I got to meet with some friends. And Walt's like, oh, by the way, there's something outside for you. And Walt leaves, the door open, and there's big bags of money behind. And Jesse sits on the floor. He's kind of like upset by it, freaked out a little bit. And then we see Skylar doing the dishes. The door opens. Walt comes in. He says, I'm out. Skylar stares, and he says, I'm out. And she opens her mouth. And she just stays at the sink in shock. And then we have a time lapse, and we see a whole hose dripping, wind chimes, a bug, baby and Junior are playing in a baby car. Baby's got a pacifier. It's like a garden party, like inane conversation. They're talking about coin collections and mixing up, Marie's talking about her hair and coloring it. Baseball cards, hobbies, the good old days. Prenatal vitamins for your hair. Flynn's got to put a sunscreen on Holly. Hank's like, maybe I'll make a new homebrew. More Schrader Brown, like, let's put lemon juice. And, it's just like this, seemingly perfect moment. And Hank goes to get him. He's like, they're like, yeah, let's get you. And like Hank says, who am I to fly in the face of public demand? I thought that was an interesting comment. Marie was wearing yellow, which caused me to do 2 exclamation points. Marie in yellow. And then Hank goes in the bathroom. He breathes out. He sits down. He's bored. There's like Family Circle magazine, Ladies Home Journal. Neither of them interest him, but oh boy, when he sees the leaves of grass, he's like, awesome. He's like, I need my Whitman, man. And then he sees the inscription from Gale and then the opening to WW. And there's a flashback to him and Walt and Hank talking. Walt was lit by blue light. We're talking about Gale and WW. And Walt says, oh, it was me. And then, it sinks in, and then there's Hank. It's a close up on Hank's look as he realizes she's Walt's the one. And then the episode comes to an end. I want to say thanks and night to Carrie, Ecotextual, Prim Reaper, Katana A, Mirror Karl Marx, Kim H, Karen K, good friends over there. FYP me, new listener, thanks. Lissy, thanks and good night. Donna B, thanks and good night. Suzanne G, thanks and good night. Jason S, thanks and good night. Nug and Illusionoid, Georgia, and MFM. MFM, that's right. Tavy rhymes with gravy. Thank you, Tavy. Natalie, thank you. Channing Tweedum, thank you. Brain cramp, hope that, uncramps. Lisa S to the P, thanks and good night. Suzanne W, thanks and good night. Els, Benz, thanks. Madison, thanks and good night. The poet Maggie G, thanks and good night. Babs, be like Babs. Cinnamon D, thank you. 10F10, thanks and good night. Daft Can. Chris E, everybody, hi Chris, thanks, hi Chris. Hi to hi Chris, Cherry, Charissa, thanks. Craig M, shout out. Joseph B, who gave us a little shout out to Mike R. Hopefully we'll connect with Mike R. Rory, another new buddy, Rory, yes. Aaron, thank you, and good night, Aaron A. Fern, our good friend, Dr. Graham, talking to Dr. Kate, thanks, Dr. Graham. Misconduct, thanks and good night. Maurice, Chris R, thanks, Chris R, you're real nice too. Dina B, caught that Sancho Panza, not Pancho Sanza. That's the old, that's the worst when my dyslexia acts up. Amy M, thanks and good night. Lori S, thanks and good night. Sarah O, thanks and good night. Swords XD, they're talking about that ice cream. Everybody, Justin J, the brilliant Justin J, Levels, who hopped in on a convo there too. Ankscrolic, thanks and good night. JF Snodgers, thank you. Our buddy Blake at Half Hour Intern Podcast. Shane Gibbo, the Geek Caveman, thanks and good night. Leanne R, thank you so much and good night. Yo Yolanda, hey, thanks and good night. Annie to the G, thanks and good night. Spreading the word across the globe there. Misunderstood, thanks and good night. Matthew F, also trying to hook us up with another podcast, Mental Pod by Paul G, thanks and good night. DJ Cupcake, I mean, what else can you say? That's a DJ, that's a cupcake. Burbigs, thanks and good night to Burbigs, or if you want to say it like that. Our friends at Friend Dog Studios, hopefully we'll be working, figuring something out with them. Bear Trap Fitness, back to school, thanks and good night. Jelly sock, what do you got in your sock? I got some jellies in my sock. What do you think I got? What else would I have? Kartik, I real Kartik, thanks and good night. Jane L, sleep with her pup, thanks and good night. Yeah, no sketch show, thank you and good night. Sahil, thank you so much for always remembering stuff. Thanks, Sahil. Erratic Lefty, you're not erratic to me. Alexandra S to the Z, thanks and good night. Josie, thanks and good night. Pros Overload, Afray SF, thank you and good night. Valerie F, our good friend, another great poet. Lida, thank you and good night. T, Wither and Bloom, thank you and good night. Lydia P, thank you and good night. Christopher M, thank you with your waving tube man. And that's it. Thanks and good night, everybody.